Do you know who was the first woman to leave Hollywood directors, A-list actors, and even powerful politicians completely powerless to resist her? Elizabeth Taylor, the iconic beauty with those legendary violet eyes and a firestorm of charisma. She wasn't just the unforgettable Cleopatra on screen. In real life, she became a symbol of rebellion, passion, and fearless love. But behind her 8 whirlwind marriages, her infamous late-night escapades, and her explosive affair with Richard Burton lies a trail of mysteries people still argue about today. Stick around until the end, and you'll learn what truly shattered her during her final years. Elizabeth Taylor dominated tabloid headlines for decades thanks to her scandal-packed love life. Yet few realize that behind the cameras stood a woman overflowing with empathy, wit, and a deep awareness of other people's pain. Born in 1932 in Hampstead, England, to an American family, Elizabeth and her parents moved to California in 1939 to escape the bombing raids of World War II. Her mother, Sarah Sawthorne, had once been a respected Broadway actress. Rumors later spread that Sarah had a quiet romantic connection with MGM powerhouse Louis B. Mayer. But where her mother was gentle and diplomatic, Elizabeth was the opposite. Even as a child, she was bold, blunt, and never afraid to speak her mind. She openly mocked Mayer, whom she saw as bossy, arrogant, and cold-hearted. Taylor once joked that he reminded her of an awkward penguin whose only talent was stepping on everyone beneath him, then drowning himself in wine and self-pity afterward. Elizabeth Taylor's Hollywood journey started incredibly early. By the time she was just 12, she landed her breakout role in National Velvet. But it was on that very set where an accident left her with emotional and physical scars she carried for the rest of her life. King Charles, the gentle horse she adored, suddenly bucked and threw her to the ground, causing a serious back injury. Still, Elizabeth never blamed him. In fact, she asked to take King Charles home after filming Wrapped, showing just how forgiving she could be, even when she was the one in pain. But that injury followed her everywhere, turning into chronic back problems that haunted her for decades. Her teenage years were anything but peaceful. Once, after Louis B. Mayer insulted her mother, Elizabeth lifted her chin and fired back that he and the entire studio could go straight to hell. The studio demanded she apologize. Elizabeth refused without hesitation. That mix of courage and defiance made her grow up fast, but it also fueled some jaw-dropping rumors. Some biographers have even suggested she had a brief relationship with Ronald Reagan, back when he was a 36-year-old actor, while she was still far too young. There's no proof of this, but the mere rumor added another layer of controversy to her already dramatic story. By 1950, Taylor stepped into marriage for the first time with Conrad Hilton, Jr., heir to the Hilton Hotel fortune. But behind the picture-perfect fairy tale wedding, the reality was far darker. Many historians believe MGM engineered the entire marriage to supercharge their rising star's fame. They staged everything: the over-the-top wedding dress, the glamorous honeymoon wardrobe, even a full media rollout. But once the cameras were gone and the doors shut, her life turned into a nightmare. Hilton turned out to be an alcoholic, a compulsive gambler, and at times even violent toward Elizabeth. After barely 3 months, the marriage collapsed, leaving her with emotional wounds that would linger for years. But instead of receiving compassion, Elizabeth faced punishment. MGM forced her into the film Love is Better Than Ever as payback for daring to leave her husband. And Hilton wasn't the only man who tried to treat her like a possession. Howard Hughes, the eccentric filmmaker and billionaire aviator, once offered her parents an outrageous amount of money if she would agree to marry him. But Elizabeth was far too sharp to fall for that. She turned him down immediately, refusing to be bought or traded like property, and making it clear that her independence and self-worth weren't up for sale. Elizabeth's next husband was Michael Wilding, a British actor 20 years older than she was. At first, their marriage gave her a rare sense of calm. They had 2 sons and appeared, at least from the outside, to be a picture-perfect family. But that peace shattered when Elizabeth discovered that Wilding regularly hosted lavish poolside parties, complete with young women invited purely for entertainment. Once again, she was confronted with betrayal and another marriage falling apart. And that wasn't the only controversy attached to their relationship. The sharp-tongued gossip columnist Hedda Hopper claimed that Wilding was keeping a secret from his bride, that he was actually attracted to men. Hopper hinted that Wilding and his close friend Stuart shared more than friendship. Even so, Taylor and Wilding married anyway. But the rumors didn't stop. Hopper continued to publish story after story, suggesting Wilding was always looking elsewhere. Then came a heartbreak that shook Elizabeth to her core. James Dean, the young rebel who defined a generation, died far too soon, and no one felt the blow harder than Taylor. During the filming of Giant, she was on set with Dean and Rock Hudson when news broke that Dean had been killed in a car crash. The entire crew fell silent, but director George Stevens, cold and unmoved, ordered Elizabeth, who was already in shock, to immediately film a reaction shot meant for a scene with Dean. She was devastated and furious, carrying that bitterness for the rest of her life. She never forgave Stevens for that moment of cruelty. Not long after, tragedy struck another man deeply connected to her. Montgomery Clift, the sensitive, gifted actor and one of her closest friends, reluctantly attended a dinner party at her home while feeling under the weather. Driving back, Clift fell asleep at the wheel and smashed into a tree. Horrified, Elizabeth rushed straight to the wreck, holding him in a life-or-death moment until help arrived. Clift survived, but his face was permanently damaged. He spiraled into painkillers, unpredictable behavior, and eventually Hollywood turned its back on him. But Elizabeth never did. She fought relentlessly for Clift, demanding that studios cast him alongside her, even offering up her own salary as insurance. But fate refused to show mercy. Clift died at only 45, long before he ever had the chance at a true comeback. The losses kept stacking up, yet Elizabeth never stopped chasing happiness. In 1957, after divorcing Michael Wilding, she entered her 3rd marriage, this time with producer Mike Todd. Unlike Clift's quiet, gentle charm, Todd was big, loud, and larger than life. He staged events that bordered on outrageous. For Elizabeth's birthday, he rented out Madison Square Garden, packed it with 18,000 people, and even had the celebration broadcast live on CBS. To Todd, love wasn't complete without grand gestures, diamonds, glittering gold jewelry, and gifts that made headlines. The press quickly labeled Taylor a gold digger, but reality was a lot more complicated. Once, during an outing with Taylor, Todd, and Debbie Reynolds, Reynolds watched the couple explode into a fierce argument. Trying to defend Elizabeth, Reynolds stepped in, only for Taylor to calmly shrug it off, saying that for her and Mike, fights weren't conflicts, just foreplay. That same year, Taylor and Todd welcomed their daughter, Liza. For a brief moment, happiness seemed real. Elizabeth even beat out Marilyn Monroe for the role of Maggie in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, a huge professional victory. But the joy didn't last. On her very first day on set, Mike Todd died in a plane crash. The grief shattered her. The shock left her with a stammer, though her character's southern drawl helped her disguise it on film. Todd's marriage to Taylor became the only one of her unions that didn't end in divorce. Elizabeth later said Mike Todd was one of the three great loves of her life, alongside Richard Burton and, of course, her glittering collection of jewelry. But the scandals surrounding her time with Todd were nothing compared to the media explosion that followed her next marriage. Just hours after Eddie Fisher, husband of America's sweetheart Debbie Reynolds, signed his divorce papers, Taylor walked him down the aisle. It was almost impossible to believe. Elizabeth, still reeling from Todd's death, had openly taken her best friend's husband. "Don't you realize I could kill you with this crutch?" she once snapped. "Good Lord, do you think I'd care?" For Hollywood, and for the entire country, the scandal that followed truly felt like something out of a tabloid fever dream. Not long before everything unraveled, Taylor and Debbie Reynolds had been inseparable, one of the closest friendships in show business. But the drama turned even darker when the press revealed a painful twist. During the period when Eddie Fisher and Elizabeth were secretly involved, Debbie phoned her best friend, and Eddie Fisher answered. With heartbreaking composure, Debbie supposedly said, "Darling, roll over so I can talk to Elizabeth." The line became infamous, exposing the agony of a woman who lost her husband and her closest friend in the very same moment. The backlash against Taylor was merciless. Branded a homewrecker, she faced a tidal wave of public fury everywhere she went. After the massive success of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof in 1958, Elizabeth even considered walking away from Hollywood entirely. But MGM wasn't about to let that happen. Locked in a bitter fight with the studio, she was forced into Butterfield 8, playing a call girl, opposite Eddie Fisher, no less. Elizabeth despised the film. Throughout production, she barely spoke to the director and did only the bare minimum. And yet, in a twist that felt almost cruel, the performance she hated earned her the first Academy Award of her career for Best Actress. Critics celebrated her. Audiences were blown away. But Taylor never sugar-coated her feelings. "I still think that movie stinks," she said. The next major turning point in Elizabeth's life arrived with Cleopatra in 1961. It was the most extravagant film production Hollywood had ever attempted, and Taylor became the first actress in history to earn a $1 million salary, an absolutely jaw-dropping figure for the time. When reporters pressed her about the record-breaking paycheck, she smirked and said, "If someone's foolish enough to pay me $1 million to make a movie, I'm certainly not foolish enough to turn it down." For Elizabeth, it wasn't just a huge personal victory. It felt like payback toward everyone who had ever underestimated her. But Cleopatra didn't just make her richer, it hurled her straight into a storm of global politics and forbidden love. In 1959, after Mike Todd's death, Taylor converted to Judaism and took the name Elisheba Rachel. It was a deeply personal choice, but it came with heavy consequences. The Egyptian government initially refused to allow her into the country because of her Jewish faith, threatening to derail the entire production. Eventually, Cairo relented simply because the film was too massive to stop, but the political tension made Elizabeth an even bigger magnet for controversy. And that was only the beginning. Cleopatra also sparked one of the wildest and most scandalous romances Hollywood has ever seen, Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. Both were married at the time, but their chemistry on set was overwhelming, tearing down every boundary in their way. The press tailed them relentlessly. Religious groups blasted them publicly. But Burton and Taylor didn't bother hiding anything, not for a second. They kissed openly on yachts, flashed massive diamond rings in public, and pushed back against the world's outrage with reckless, intoxicating passion. Amid all the chaos, Taylor found herself staring death in the face once again. During filming, she developed a severe case of pneumonia. By the time her assistant found her, her skin had turned bluish-green and she was barely breathing. Hollywood erupted with rumors that its reigning queen had died on set. Doctors performed an emergency tracheotomy, and her condition was so critical that several major news outlets actually announced her death prematurely. In the haze between life and death, Taylor later described a moment she could never forget. She said she saw her late husband, Mike Todd, standing before her, telling her softly, "It's not your time yet, but when it is, I'll be waiting for you on the other side." Elizabeth Taylor and Eddie Fisher finalized their divorce in 1964, officially ending one of Hollywood's most scandal-soaked marriages. What shocked many was that, despite everything, Taylor eventually reconciled with Debbie Reynolds, the very woman whose husband she'd taken. They never regained the closeness they once had, but they restored a mutual respect that endured for years. With Fisher, however, Elizabeth was unwavering. After the divorce, the two never spoke again. 2 years later, Taylor hit another milestone when she starred opposite Richard Burton in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, 1966. The raw, provocative film explored marital warfare and vicious emotional battles with such intensity that the Motion Picture Association of America was forced to revise its entire rating system, creating what would become the 18-plus category. The role didn't just solidify her artistic legacy. It became a defining chapter in the stormy, unforgettable saga of Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. Their relationship became the ultimate symbol of passion fused with destruction. They married, divorced, then married each other again, only to end it for good in 1976. During their blazing romance, Burton gifted her a breathtaking 69-carat diamond. Insured for $1 million, the stone was so valuable she was allowed to wear it only 30 days a year. To the public, it was the perfect symbol of the excess and intensity of their love. But after their final split, Taylor sold the diamond to help fund the building of a hospital in Botswana, a move that stunned and impressed people around the world. Burton also left behind journals published after his death. In them, he unleashed ruthless critiques of fellow actors, films he hated, and plenty of sharp observations about Elizabeth herself. He once wrote, "The worst things in my life have happened in Rome," referring to the chaos surrounding the Cleopatra shoot. At times, he admitted that Taylor drank so much she could barely get through her lines. Yet beneath all the bitterness was a love Burton could never fully escape, a love that inspired him and destroyed him in equal measure. After Burton, Elizabeth tried once more to find lasting happiness. Her 7th marriage was to John Warner, an American politician. But life in Washington, D.C., with its rigid etiquette and monotonous political soirees, suffocated her. Lonely and restless, she drifted toward alcohol and prescription drugs to numb the emptiness. The marriage collapsed in 1982, leaving yet another wound on her already battered heart. Even after everything she'd lived through, Elizabeth Taylor never stopped longing to love, and to be loved in return. In 1991, nearing 60, she stunned the world once again by marrying Larry Fortensky, a construction worker 20 years younger than she was. Their marriage lasted almost 5 years and ended quietly, without scandal or bitterness. A calm contrast to the emotional firestorms that had defined so many of her earlier relationships. Beyond her love affairs, Taylor was equally famous for her deep affection for animals. She once joked, "Some of my best male co-stars have been dogs and horses." She even wrote a children's book about her adventures with her four-legged friends. At one point, when returning to England, she was told her dogs would have to be quarantined. Instead of leaving them in a kennel, Taylor paid for them to stay aboard a yacht offshore, a decision that was both controversial and completely, unmistakably Taylor in its extravagance. Alongside her luxurious lifestyle, it was her eyes that enchanted the public most. Their seemingly violet shade created the illusion of an incredibly rare eye color, supposedly found in just 1% of people. In reality, her eyes were blue. Clever makeup techniques and strategic lighting from her publicity team gave them that ethereal purple glow. Whether truly violet or not, her gaze became legendary on screen. Medically speaking, her eyes were even more unique. Taylor carried a FOXC2 genetic mutation that gave her an extra row of eyelashes, a condition known as dystichiasis. The double lash line amplified her already magnetic beauty, though it wasn't harmless. The inward curving lashes sometimes scratched her cornea, causing discomfort. Beyond her many marriages, Elizabeth Taylor also had brief romances with a long list of well-known men. Among them were cultural and Hollywood icons like Unsolved Mysteries host Robert Stack, the sharp-witted actor Peter Ustinov, screen legend Mickey Rooney, journalist Carl Bernstein, famous for uncovering the Watergate scandal, and even glam rock icon David Bowie. But in 1985, something happened that changed Elizabeth's life forever. Her closest friend, Rock Hudson, died of AIDS. The loss shattered her. And instead of backing away like so many celebrities did at the time, Taylor stepped straight into the fight. She became one of the first major public figures to speak openly about AIDS and to demand research, funding, and compassion for those suffering. Together with other activists, she co-founded the American Foundation for AIDS Research, AMFAR. By 1997, the organization had raised more than $83 million, a staggering amount that proved not only Taylor's influence, but her stubborn determination. The world that once saw her only as a glamorous movie goddess now also saw a fearless humanitarian, and the respect she earned from that was unlike anything she had known in Hollywood. But in her final years, Taylor faced a reality far harsher than any role she had ever played. Her once radiant body was overwhelmed by chronic illness, diabetes, skin cancer, heart failure, a brain tumor, plus the damage left behind by addiction and more than 40 major surgeries, including multiple hip replacements and a hysterectomy. She was hospitalized over 100 times. Her Hollywood glow didn't fade because she wanted to retire. It faded because no studio would insure a star with such fragile health. In a heartbreaking interview with Barbara Walters, Elizabeth admitted, "I never wanted to stop making movies, but I had no choice. Otherwise, people might think you're lacking in good breeding," she once joked, a reminder of her sharp wit even in her later years. Although countless men passed through Elizabeth Taylor's life, she always insisted Richard Burton was her one true and final great love. "Everyone after Richard was just for company," she once confessed. After Burton's death, Taylor attended his memorial service and was given one last letter he had written for her. The moment she recognized his handwriting, she completely broke down. She never revealed the full contents, sharing only one heartbreaking line: "Home is where Elizabeth is, and I want to come home." She kept that letter beside her bed until the very end, proof that their love, no matter how chaotic or damaging, never really died. On March 23, 2011, Elizabeth Taylor took her final breath. And in perfect Elizabeth fashion, her casket arrived at the funeral 15 minutes late, exactly as she had requested in her will, so she could be fashionably late one last time. The gesture brought both tears and bittersweet smiles. It was pure Elizabeth, dramatic, memorable, unforgettable. After her passing, many wondered whether she would finally be laid to rest beside Richard Burton. But that wish never came true. Burton's last wife, Sally Hay, had purchased the surrounding burial plots and installed a large headstone that covered both adjacent spaces, a final, immovable claim. Elizabeth Taylor was not buried next to Richard Burton. but she was buried with his last love letter. Inside her ornate casket lay no 69-carat diamond, no Hollywood trophies, no symbols of her fame, only a few handwritten lines from the man who made her feel love, pain, ecstasy, and heartbreak in equal measure. And it was this, more than the jewels, more than the movies, more than the legend, that made Elizabeth Taylor not just a star of the silver screen, but a timeless icon of love itself.